My phone showed 1 bar of signal at 11:04 on Christmas Eve. The engine had been dead for 4 minutes. The wipers had stopped mid-arc with snow halfway up the windshield. I could feel the cold coming in through the floor at my feet first, the way it always does in an old car, before the cabin starts to give up its heat. I called my mother because she was the closest. Bradley lived 2 hours from where I was. She lived 40 minutes. She picked up on the third ring with the sound of a Christmas movie behind her. I told her the mile marker. I told her I was on the rural stretch east of the county line. I told her the engine was dead and the snow was getting heavy, and I had 1 bar. She said it without a pause, the way you say a thing you have already decided not to do. She said, "I'll send a tow, sweetheart. Stay in the car." I said, "Okay." I said, "Thank you." I said, "I love you," the way you say it on Christmas Eve to your mother when you were scared. She said it back. She hung up. The phone went dark in my hand. I put my hands inside the sleeves of my coat and I looked out the windshield at the snow coming down sideways across the headlights of the car behind mine, which was no car, because there were no cars, because it was Christmas Eve and the road was empty and I was the only person on this stretch of highway between 2 counties and 1 bar of signal. I told myself the tow would come in 20 minutes. It did not. It would not come at all. I did not know that yet. The cold was already inside the car. The first hour I kept the radio on. I did not turn the engine over because I had read once that you can flood a cold engine and I needed it to start when the tow came. I watched the dashboard clock. 11:04 became 11:19, became 11:32. The snow on the windshield rose past the wiper blades and started to bury them. I could not see the road in front of the car anymore. I could only see the white. I texted Bradley at 11:41. Just a message that said, "Stuck on the highway, Mom sending a tow, can you check on her phone?" I watched the message go from delivered to read. He did not write back. The second hour, the cold stopped feeling like cold. It started feeling like pressure. The kind of pressure that sits on your chest and makes your fingers slow. I knew what that was. I work at a hospital. I had taken patients up from the ER who had come in like that. I knew the order things go in. Fingers first, then toes, then the thinking. I tried the engine at 12:40. It cranked once and stopped. I tried it again at 12:43. Nothing. I called my mother at 12:47, straight to voicemail. I called again at 12:50, voicemail. I called Bradley, voicemail. I left my mother a message. I tried to keep my voice steady because I did not want her to be worried at midnight. I said, "Hey Mom, just checking in, the tow hasn't gotten here, can you call them back and check?" I did not say I was scared. I should have said I was scared. The third hour, I stopped looking at the clock because looking at the clock was making the time slower. I put my hands under my thighs. I pulled my knees up to my chest in the driver's seat. I tried to think of warm rooms. I thought about the kitchen at my dad's house. He had been gone 2.5 years by then. The kitchen had had a yellow lamp over the sink. He used to leave it on for me when I drove home from college. I sat in the dead car on the highway in the blizzard, and I tried to put myself in that kitchen with the yellow lamp on and my dad at the table and the smell of coffee. I could not feel my left hand anymore. My thinking was getting flat. The sentences in my head were shorter. I knew what that meant too. I tried the engine one last time at 1:52. It did not even crank. The fourth hour, I started saying my own name out loud. Just my name, Helen, Helen, Helen. I did it because I had read in a training that talking out loud keeps you oriented when your body starts to shut down. I do not know if that is true. I just remember saying my name and watching my breath come out white in the cabin of the car and counting the seconds between each one, because counting was the only thing I could still do without effort. At 3:04 in the morning, a pair of headlights came around the bend behind me. They slowed, they stopped. A door opened. A flashlight beam crossed the back window of my car and found my face in the rearview mirror. A man's voice, loud through the glass, asked me if I was Helen. I had not told him my name. He said dispatch had not sent him. He had been driving home off shift and he had seen a windshield buried. He got me into the cruiser. He put the heat on me. He gave me a foil blanket that crinkled in my hands because my hands were shaking too hard to hold it. He said, "Ma'am, how long have you been here?" I told him. He said, "Ma'am, who knew?" I told him. He went very quiet. Then he picked up his radio. The trooper's name was Frank. He was about 50. He had a daughter close to my age. I learned that later. In the report he wrote, in the line where he noted that he had stayed with me at the hospital until a family member arrived, which never happened. So he stayed until 8 in the morning and then he came back at noon. In the cruiser, on the radio, he asked dispatch to confirm any tow request from my mother's number on the rural highway between 11 and 1 a.m. The dispatcher came back in under 2 minutes. No request had come in from that number. No request had come in for that mile marker. The only call to dispatch about that stretch of road that night was Frank's own call, made at 3:06. Frank looked over at me. He did not say anything. He just looked at me long enough that I understood he was waiting to see what I would do with it. I did not do anything. I sat in the heated seat of the cruiser with the foil blanket on my shoulders, and I watched the wipers move snow off the cruiser's windshield in clean arcs, and I thought about my mother saying, "I'll send a tow, sweetheart. Stay in the car." And I thought about the Christmas movie behind her voice. Frank wrote the incident report at the hospital while I was being warmed. He let me read it before he filed it. He had written, in his own handwriting in the narrative section, that the subject's reported emergency contact had stated she was dispatching a tow service, which was not corroborated by dispatch records, and that the subject had been exposed to 12-degree ambient temperatures for approximately 4 hours prior to discovery. He asked me if I wanted him to add anything. I told him no. He said, "Ma'am, I'm going to file this either way. You should know that." I said, "Please file it." He filed it. I learned what had actually happened on Christmas morning in the hospital room from Bradley. Bradley came in at 10 in the morning. He had a coffee for me. He had a small wrapped present in his other hand. He sat down in the chair next to the bed, and he gave me the coffee, and he asked me how I was feeling. I asked him where Mom was. He said, "She's at my house. She came over last night around 10. We had dinner. She watched me open the presents she'd brought for the kids. She fell asleep on the couch around midnight." I did not say anything. He said, "She told me you were going to be late because you had a flat tire. She said you'd be fine. She said you'd called a tow." I still did not say anything. He said, "Why are you in the hospital, Helen? What flat tire?" I said, "No flat tire, Bradley. I was on the highway for 4 hours." He said, "What?" I said, "The engine died. I called Mom. She said she'd send a tow. She didn't." He stared at me. He did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said the thing he was always going to say, because he had been raised to say it, the same way I had been raised to be the one who handled it. He said, "Helen, she probably just forgot." It was Christmas Eve. There was a lot going on. I said, "Okay, Bradley." I drank the coffee. I let him sit there. He stayed for an hour. He left to go back to his kids. I did not call my mother. She did not call me. I went home from the hospital on the 26th in a rideshare. I let myself into my apartment. I sat on my couch in my coat for a long time without taking it off. I did not bring it up. For 11 months, I did not bring it up. I did not visit her that year. I sent a card on her birthday in March because I had been raised to send a card on her birthday in March. I did not call. She did not call me either, except twice in May, both times about Bradley's kids' recital. I returned to the calls. I kept the conversations under 4 minutes. I did not say anything about Christmas Eve. She did not bring it up. We talked about the recital and the weather and an aunt who had been sick. We did not talk about the highway. This is the thing about being the youngest daughter and the strong one. You learn very young that the family will let you carry the silence for them, and they will mistake your silence for forgiveness. They will think the absence of your accusation is the presence of your grace. They will go on as if nothing happened because you have agreed not to make them go on as if something did. I had agreed for 11 months. The 11th month was November. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was at my desk at the hospital. I was finishing a discharge plan for an 83-year-old man who was going home to a daughter who did not want him. Bradley's name came up on my phone. He started without a greeting. He said, "Helen, I need to talk to you about Mom." I said, "What about her?" He said, "She can't stay in the house anymore. She fell in October. She didn't tell us. She got herself up. But it happened again last week, and the neighbor found her. She needs assisted living, Helen, the good place, the one over by the river." I said, "Okay." He said, "It's $189,000 for the entry fee. She doesn't have it. I don't have it. I'm tapped out from the kids' school. I waited." He said, "She wants you to co-sign." I had been writing on the discharge plan. I set the pen down on the desk in a very deliberate way. I did not say anything for long enough that he said my name. I said, "When does she need an answer?" He said, "By the end of the month." "The lawyer wants to meet next Tuesday to go through the paperwork." I said, "Bradley, I will meet her at the lawyer's office on Tuesday." He said, "Oh, thank God, Helen, I knew you'd come through. You're the strong one, you've always been." I said, "I will meet her at the lawyer's office on Tuesday." I did not say I would sign. He stopped. He said, "What?" I said, "I will be there." I hung up. I sat at my desk. The discharge plan was open in front of me. I looked at the 83-year-old man's name and I thought about the daughter who did not want him. I thought about how 30 years from now, somebody would write a discharge plan with my mother's name on it, and somebody at a desk would have to figure out where she could go. I did not feel anything that I expected to feel. I closed the discharge plan. I picked up the phone. I called the records office of the State Highway Patrol, and I asked how to request a copy of an incident report from December of last year. The clerk told me I could pull it from the public records portal in about 10 minutes. I pulled it that afternoon. It was still there. Frank's handwriting in the narrative section, the dispatch line that said no request had been made, the mile marker, the 4 hours, the 12 degrees. I printed 3 copies. Then I called the number for the man who had been my father's estate attorney. He picked up on the second ring. I had not spoken to him in 2.5 years. He remembered me anyway. I said, "Mr. Grant, I have a question about my father's trust." He said, "Helen, is everything all right?" I said, "My mother needs me to co-sign for her assisted living entry fee. Before I make a decision, I need to understand what's in the trust my father left." He was quiet for a beat. Then he said, "Can you come in tomorrow morning? There are things in that trust I think your father wanted you to know before something like this came up." I said, "What time?" He said, 8 a.m. I said, "I'll be there." I hung up. I went back to my discharge plan. I finished it. I sent the 83-year-old man home to a daughter who did not want him. I packed up my desk. I drove home in the dark. I slept 8 hours for the first time since the call from Bradley had come in. Mr. Grant's office was in a small brick building behind the courthouse. It had been my father's lawyer's office for 30 years. I had been there twice as a child. I had been there once after my father died, sitting in a chair too big for me, signing things I did not understand. He stood up when I came in. He was older now. He poured me coffee from a pot on a side table. He did not ask me how I was. He sat down at his desk and he opened a manila file that had my father's name on the tab. He said, "Helen, your father set this trust up in May of 2019. He came in on a Tuesday morning. He sat in the chair you're sitting in. He gave me very specific instructions." I said, "What instructions?" He said, "The trust holds approximately $740,000 in retirement assets and the proceeds from the sale of the lake property. The named primary beneficiary is you. Your brother Bradley is named as a secondary beneficiary at 15%. I said, "My mother." He said, "Your mother is named as a permitted beneficiary." Permitted, not entitled. The trust language requires your written consent before any distribution to your mother can be made. Without your signature, she cannot access $1 of it. I sat with that. I said, "Why?" Mr. Grant looked at me for a long moment. Then he opened the file further and he took out a single sheet of paper. He turned it toward me. It was in my father's handwriting. I had not seen my father's handwriting in 2.5 years. My chest did the thing it does. He said, "Your father wrote this the same morning he signed the trust. He asked me to give it to you only if a situation ever arose in which your mother needed access to the money. He said, if Helen ever sits in front of you needing to make this decision, give her the letter." I took it. It was 3 paragraphs. My father wrote that he loved my mother. He wrote that he had been married to her for 38 years. He wrote that she had been a good wife in many ways and a difficult mother in others, and that he had watched, for 36 of those years, the way she chose Bradley over me, and the way she expected me to absorb it, and the way I had absorbed it because I was the kind of child who absorbed things. He wrote that he was setting up the trust this way because he knew that one day, after he was gone, my mother would need something from me. He did not know what. He wrote, "It might be money, it might be time, it might be something I cannot picture from this chair. But she will need it, and she will ask in a way that makes you feel you have no choice. I am giving you the choice." The trust is set up so that you, and only you, decide. If you decide yes, give it to her with my blessing. If you decide no, do that with my blessing too. You do not owe her your yes, Helen. You have given her your yes for 36 years. I read the letter twice. I did not cry. I had not cried in the car on the highway. I had not cried in the hospital. I had not cried for 11 months. I was still saving it. I folded the letter. I put it in the inside pocket of my coat. Mr. Grant said, "Helen, what do you want to do?" I said, "I need 3 things in a folder for me to take with me on Tuesday morning: the trust, the dispatch confirmation from the state patrol, the letter from my father." He said, "The dispatch confirmation." I said, "My mother left me on a highway in a blizzard on Christmas Eve last year. She told me she was sending a tow. She was at my brother's house. The patrol pulled the dispatch records. There was no tow." Mr. Grant did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said, "Helen, your father knew. He knew before he died." I said, "I know." He said, "I'll have the folder ready by close of business today. You can pick it up tomorrow on your way home from work." I said, "Thank you, Mr. Grant." He said, "Helen." I said, "Yes." He said, "Your father told me that morning, the morning he set up the trust, that you were the strongest person in his family. He said he meant it as a fact, not a compliment. He said he was sorry that being the strong one had cost you what it had cost you." I picked up the coffee. I held it for a few seconds. I did not drink it. I said, "Please tell him thank you for me. The next time you talk to him." He looked at me, and his eyes did a thing. He said, "I will." I picked up the folder Monday at 5:45 in the evening. It was a plain manila folder. Inside were 3 documents and 1 envelope: the trust agreement with the consent clause flagged, the dispatch confirmation from the State Highway Patrol signed by a records clerk, the incident report from Frank with the narrative section circled, and, at the bottom, the envelope with my father's letter inside it. I did not put the letter on the top of the folder. I put it on the bottom. I was not going to give the letter to my mother. The letter was mine. It had always been mine. My father had written it for me, and my mother was not going to put her hands on it. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat. I did not open the folder again that night. I made dinner. I ate it. I went to bed at 10. I did not sleep, not because I was nervous, because I was thinking. I was thinking about the way my mother said the word sweetheart. She said it the same way she had said it on the phone on Christmas Eve. She said it the same way she had said it when I was 9 and I had broken my arm on the playground, and she had told me on the drive to the hospital that I was making too big a deal of it. She said it the same way she had said it at my father's funeral when she had told me in the receiving line that I was the strong one, and Bradley needed me to be there for him because he was taking it harder. She had said sweetheart my whole life as a way of telling me I was about to be asked to absorb something. I had absorbed it every time. I lay in the dark and I thought about the highway. I thought about the hour I had spent saying my own name. I thought about Frank in the cruiser and the quiet way he had looked at me when dispatch had said no tow had been requested. I thought about my father in Mr. Grant's office in May of 2019, sitting in the chair I had sat in, telling Mr. Grant about 36 years of his daughter being chosen second by his wife, and setting up a trust to make sure that one day when she came for me, I would have the paper that said I did not have to. He had known for years. He had not said anything to me. I understood why. He had said something to Mr. Grant. He had said the thing in the letter that I would not be ready to hear from a living father, but that I might be ready to hear from a dead one if the moment came. The moment had come. I got up at 6 on Tuesday morning. I made coffee. I put on a charcoal blazer. I did not put on lipstick. I did not put my hair up. I wanted to look the way I had looked on the highway. I wanted my mother to look at me across the conference table and remember the version of her daughter she had left in 12-degree weather to watch her son open presents. I picked up the folder at 7:30. I drove to the lawyer's office. The meeting was at 8:30. I parked in the lot at 8:22. I sat in the car for 6 minutes with the folder on my lap and my hands flat on top of it. I did not pray. I do not pray. But I said something quietly to the inside of the windshield. I said, "Dad, thank you." Then I got out of the car. I went inside. The receptionist showed me to the conference room. My mother and Bradley were already there. The conference room had a long table and 4 chairs and a window that looked out onto the courthouse parking lot. The lawyer for the assisted living facility was at the head of the table, a woman in her 40s, blonde, business suit, polite smile. The loan papers were already laid out on the table in front of the chair I was supposed to sit in. They had a tab marked "Sign Here" in pink, 3 pages in. My mother was sitting on the long side of the table. She was wearing her good blue blouse, the one she wore to church. Her hair was set. She looked the way she always looked when she wanted something, composed, soft, ready to be patient with me. Bradley was next to her. He stood up when I came in. He gave me a small, uncertain smile that did not reach his eyes. My mother said, "Sweetheart, thank you for coming." I did not answer her. I sat down across from her. I put the manila folder on the table in front of me. I did not open it. I put my hands flat on top of it the way I had put them on the steering wheel in the parking lot. The lawyer for the facility started talking. She started walking us through the loan documents, the interest rate, the repayment terms, the first position lien on my mother's small remaining equity in the house, the co-signer's obligations, the default consequences. I let her talk. I did not look at the loan papers in front of me. I looked at my mother. My mother smiled at me. She said, "You're being so quiet, Helen. Are you all right?" I said, "I'm listening." The facility lawyer finished her walkthrough. She slid the loan papers another inch toward me. She put her pen down on top of the SIG and HERE tab. My mother leaned forward slightly. She put her hand on the table near the papers. She used the voice, the Christmas Eve voice. She said, "You're the strong one, Helen. Just sign so we can move." I picked up the loan papers. I picked them up with both hands. I lifted them. I turned them around. I slid them, slowly, across the table. Back to the facility lawyer, past my mother, past Bradley. The papers came to a stop in front of the lawyer's hands. The room got very quiet. I said, "I won't be signing these." My mother's mouth opened. The composed face was still on, but there was something behind it now that had not been there 10 seconds ago. She said, "Helen, what are you doing?" I picked up the manila folder. I opened it. I took out the trust agreement, the dispatch confirmation, and the incident report. I put them in a stack, the trust on top, the dispatch confirmation second, the incident report third. I slid the stack across the table to my mother. She looked down at it. She did not pick it up. Bradley reached past her and turned the top page. He started reading. His mouth moved on the consent clause. My mother had not moved. I said, "The top one is the trust Dad set up in May of 2019. It holds about $740,000. You're a permitted beneficiary. The trust requires my written consent before any distribution to you. Without my signature, you can't access a dollar of it." I said, "The second one is the dispatch confirmation from the State Highway Patrol for Christmas Eve last year. It says no tow was ever requested from your phone number. The mile marker matches the location of my car. The time matches the call I made to you at 11:04. I said, "The third one is the incident report from the trooper who found me at 3:04 in the morning. He noted the temperature. He noted the 4 hours. He noted that the emergency contact I had named to him had told me she was sending help." My mother looked up from the papers. She had not yet picked them up. Bradley had stopped reading and was staring at his hands. My mother said it. She said it in the room. She said it in front of the facility lawyer and in front of Bradley and in front of me. She said, "It was Christmas, Helen. He's a child. You were an adult. Figure it out." Bradley closed his eyes. I sat for a moment in the silence after she said it. The facility lawyer was looking down at the table. Bradley's hands were folded so tightly the knuckles were white. I said, "I did, Mom. I figured it out." I stood up. I picked up the empty manila folder. I left the 3 documents on the table in front of her. I walked to the door of the conference room. The facility lawyer stood up too, automatically, the way people stand up when something is ending and they do not yet understand what. I turned at the door. I looked at my mother one more time. I said, "The trust is mine. Dad knew. He left me a letter. He knew you would come for me one day, and he knew I would say yes the way I always said yes, so he made sure I would not have to. I said, I'm not going to sign your loan papers. I'm not going to give consent on the trust. You can sell the house. You can move in with Bradley. You can call Aunt Margaret. You can figure it out." I said the word back to her. I said it softly. I said, "You're an adult, Mom. Figure it out." I walked out. I did not cry in the elevator. I did not cry in the parking lot. I did not cry in the car. I drove to a diner 2 blocks away. I sat in a booth by the window. I ordered coffee. I ordered eggs. The waitress, who was about 60, brought the coffee first and looked at my face and asked me if I wanted a slice of pie with the eggs on the house. I said yes. I ate the eggs. I ate the pie. I drank 3 cups of coffee. I sat in the booth for 2 hours. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket twice in the first hour. Both my mother. I did not look at the screen. It buzzed again at 11:17. Bradley. I let it go. It buzzed at 11:41. Bradley again. I let it go. He called 4 more times between 11:41 and 12:30. I left the phone in the coat pocket. The waitress refilled my coffee a fourth time. She did not ask me anything else. At 12:53, the phone buzzed in a different rhythm. A long buzz, a voicemail. I took the phone out. I played it on the table speaker, low, with my hand cupped over it. Bradley's voice was thick. It was the voice he used to have at 12 when he had done something wrong and was about to admit it before our father got home. He said, "Helen, I read the trust. I read the whole thing. I read the consent clause. I read the part about Dad's instructions. He set it up because of you, didn't he?" He knew. He said he knew. He knew, and he didn't tell me. He set it up so you would have the choice and I wouldn't be the one to ask you. He knew I would ask. He knew I would let her ask. He knew. He said, "Helen, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about Christmas Eve. I'm so sorry I came to the hospital with a coffee and told you she'd just forgotten. I knew when I said it. I didn't want to know, but I knew." She came to my house at 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve and she sat on my couch and she watched my kids open presents and she fell asleep. And you were on a highway and I told myself she'd called the tow already. He said, "I am so sorry, Helen. Please call me back." I let the message end. I did not call him back. I did not call him back that day. I did not call him back that week. I let the silence do the thing the silence had always done in our family, except now I was the one holding it, and I was holding it on purpose. By Friday, my mother had left me 31 voicemails. I did not play any of them. I deleted them in batches at the end of each day, the way you delete junk mail. By the following Tuesday, the assisted living facility had withdrawn the offer because the loan had not been signed by the deadline. My mother, I learned later from Mr. Grant, had been forced to put the house on the market. It sold in 3 weeks for less than she had wanted because she was selling in December. She moved in with Bradley in January. Bradley's wife, who had been quiet for 15 years, told her after 6 weeks that the arrangement was not going to work. My mother is in a 1-bedroom rental near the highway now, paid for in part by Bradley, who has stopped asking me to help. I see Bradley sometimes. We had lunch in March. We had lunch in May. He brought his daughter to the second one. She is 8. She held my hand when we walked to the car. Bradley looked at me over her head, and his eyes did a thing, and we did not say anything because we did not have to. I have not seen my mother since the morning in the conference room. I think about her. I think about the blue blouse she wore. I think about the way she said sweetheart on Christmas Eve. I think about the moment she said it was Christmas, he's a child, in front of a facility lawyer she had never met before. I do not regret what I did. I do not regret what I did not do. My father knew. That is the thing I carry now. He knew, and he set up the paper, and he wrote me a letter, and he waited from inside the trust for the day his daughter would need to be told that she was allowed to say no. I read the letter sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is quiet. The line I read most is the one near the end, where he said, "You do not owe her your yes, Helen. You have given her your yes for 36 years. I am 37 now. The yes belongs to me again. If you stayed with me this far, the channel has more women like me, women who got their answer. Subscribe and hit the bell. There's another one waiting for you right here when you're ready."